welcome to IT It's episode 5, I think.
Yeah.
It is. My name's Nikki, and you
I'm
are?
Sue Faye.
Cool. And yeah, hi, we're back. So I don't know what you're thinking of Series 2 so far.
Series 2, yeah. It was
Well, yeah, it's 5th episode long. Hopefully the sound might get a bit better. Yeah, we've got a bit of an issue with the podcast being low res, but that's because we lost our sponsor and we're using Blip. And if you want to see better quality, then you can go to YouTube. Cool. Anyway, so anything exciting to talk about, or should we just delve straight in?
Delve straight in.
Delve straight in. Yeah, we spent a reasonable amount of time today doing a bit of preparation for this one, so that's why we might try and just cut to the chase and get to it. Plus, there's no point in inflating this episode more, because what we're going to show you is cool, and it might last 10 minutes, but it's going to be a good 10 minutes. So, how do I start off with this? Pretty Cat's coming. Let's start off with this. So, Windows 8, is some of you guys might be playing with. It's freely available, not freely available, but it's available for TechNet subscribers and MCN, the final version on that. And Server 2012 is closely linked with Windows 8. I think they share the same kernel even, just like 2008 R2 and Windows 7. Now, I thought the Server 2012 was actually out on release. It's not. It's release candidate at the moment still. But there's some really good features on Server 2012. The way I'm approaching it, as I'm looking at what interests me first, so I've got no idea on the improvements of Active Directory, if I'm honest. Okay. No idea on the improvements on, just the basic things like the file structure. I know that's changed and SMB's changed and all that. So what I'm going to concentrate on, what's your guess?
System Center?
It's a good guess, but Server 2012 is a poor guess really, because it's a different product, isn't it? So I'm going to look at Hyper V.
Hyper V.
Hyper V. So you guys, well, you know about Hyper V. You've seen all the labs. All the sort of demos that we've been doing have been based on Hyper V. And I've spent probably a few episodes now on setting up the VM. So what's changed in Server 2012? Well, it only takes a few bits of reading around to see that this could be the killer, and already people saying, oh, VMware have got some things to worry about now. Now, the feature I'm going to look at today is something called Hyper V Replication, or Hyper V Replica.
Okay.
Now, it's the nice thing about having Hyper V, particularly if you have a Hyper V cluster, is for the first time you can introduce a bit of high availability. For example, if you've got a single system center server, you can put that on a Hyper V cluster, and that way, if any one of the physical boxes in that cluster dies, that system center server should still be okay.
Okay.
So we've got all that, and that's just a cluster. Now, clusters are there to give you what's referred to as high availability. Okay, so they give you high availability, and generally it's fairly seamless. You have to do some testing to realise if it's seamless or not. What you've got to think about is, if we're 2 nodes in a cluster and I'm running System Center at the moment, well, I've got the memory that the System Center's got, haven't I? Mm-hmm. So if I die, great. You've got access to the disk, you can start up again, but it's like a crash. It's like switching that machine off and back on again.
So it needs to recover. It
does need to recover, but that's something which hopefully Windows will do, but you guys need to do some testing. But one thing that's, lots of organisations want to do now is we're starting to think about DR, disaster recovery. So not what happens if that server fails, but what happens if the complete site fails. Now, one of the largest Hyper-V projects I've done was that, I won't mention name because it's for the last company, but it was, I think in terms of hardware expenditure, it was upwards of something like £750,000 in terms of hardware. And really what it was 3 Hyper-V servers on one site, 3 Hyper-V servers on the other site, and the idea would be if one site goes down or crashes, or plane crashes into it, the other site can pick up. So
where does the $750,000, where did it go then?
It goes in storage of the blades, so each
Right.
one of these is 3 blades. Each blade is upwards of 100,000 each.
Okay.
It's probably more than $750,000, to be honest. You've got the storage, so each one of those 3 servers will require some storage. Mm-hmm. And the way we achieve disaster recovery the storage would replicate to the storage on the other side.
Okay.
So for DR, for an organisation, typically what they would have is multiple nodes in a cluster, and that's all of those VMs are living on shared storage. Now that shared storage would be, it could be a NetApp box, it could be an HP box. It's an expensive box, and you would have to get that to replicate to another SAN, and that will have to understand replication. That's serious expense going on here. Lots of configuration. We had loads of trouble. We had to have HP come into the configuration. It's a complex setup. Now, for small companies, it's too expensive. And what Hyper-V Replica enables you to do, and I haven't set it up yet, so we're going to set it up live, is it enables, what we'll do is we've got 2 nodes. So in my Hyper-V network, or Hyper-V lab, I've only got 3, what I call servers. It's not clustered, I can't afford that, so single nodes. But what you can do in Server 2012 is, I've upgraded to Server 2012 running Hyper-V. What we should be able to do, from my reading anyway, is if we put a virtual machine on one of them, we can get it to replicate to the other machine automatically.
Okay.
So already I'm seeing some advantages here. I haven't got a SAN, don't need to worry about SAN-based replication. What's doing the replication? The OS. You know, so Windows 22, this is built into the operating system.
So is that machine level that it's replicating?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. This could be over an IP network, it could be over absolutely anything.
And the one that's replicated, I presume it's passive?
Yep,
Okay.
it's passive until. Now, this is a DR solution. It's not a high availability solution. So in this situation, let's say I'm one site, you're one site, I'm replicating across to you, and then for whatever reason my site goes down. Someone would have to fail that over. So someone would need to start your virtual machine up. And also there might be some loss because I would have to replicate across. We'll talk about how it replicates. But the point is, you might lose an hour worth of work, but eventually, you know, you'll pop up and hopefully you would start working.
But in a disaster scenario, that isn't
That's
too bad.
well
yeah.
acceptable. Yeah, very acceptable. The alternative would be backup restore, that kind of thing.
That would be forever. Well,
So
I don't know how many.
So the thing about the infrastructure we need for this could be a single server with direct attached storage on one side, a single server on the other side, direct attached storage. Don't need to worry about the networks, don't have to worry about SAN, don't have to worry about anything else. As long as there's some connectivity between them, you know, we can get this thing working.
Okay.
So, are you excited?
I'm excited.
Right, so let's have a look at it. I've upgraded a couple of machines to Server 2012, and that's the start of Server 2012. I've just remoted onto.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's the Enterprise Edition. I haven't put a bitmap in there, so you know, obviously you want to do that in your servers, have a picture of your cat or whatever. And yeah, it looks very similar to Windows 8. Now, I don't know what you think about Windows 8.
Well, you see, the thing is, I'm a bit influenced by the Steve Jobs book I read, and rounded corners, they're everywhere.
They're too sharp, aren't they? You
Yeah.
can hurt yourself on that.
Yeah.
I better put a warning on this episode as well. Mate. So yeah, I don't know what you think, but yeah, it's the Windows 8 interface on this. So when you click on, sorry, you might see my launch pad pop up, the main launch pad. So just ignore that. But to get to the start menu, it's down bottom right,
Bottom left.
bottom left. And you just click and that's your start. And one thing I've learned from here, if I want to go to a command prompt, where's that? Just type CMD and you can see, you can get to the command prompt. So there's a number
So from anywhere you can just start typing.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
Okay.
So regedit, that's probably going to be one that's, because there's not a program for it anyway, so let's try Notepad. There we go, NO. So it's not too bad in there. And one of the first things I want to show you is Server Manager. So really nice tool, this one. So Server Manager, I've got my dashboard up on there. I'm going to zoom in onto this one so you can click and configure your server, and I've just put the name of it in there, IP address, wherever it's domain, joined, etc. If I go to all servers, I can see it's managing just one node on there. Let's add the other one to it. Now this is the first time I've used this. Oh, add server, that's quite logical. And the name of it is, I want to manage the other node, which is IHQ Hyper-V tool.
That's up.
That one. And I think it's added it in, hasn't it, already? So I can just click on OK. So see number 2 in there, and let's say I want to do some management on that, just go up to Tools and Hyper-V Manager. So looking at Hyper-V Manager, I've focused on that tool. So you can see it's really kind of nice what they've done. I don't need to keep on flicking to other servers. So the plan is, here's one node. Let's go to the other server, which is IHQ V-all tool. Now I've got some running on, well, there's some on there you can see. I'm not going to use those. And what I'm going to say is number 3, I'm going to install a Windows server on that, and we get that replicating across to the other one. But before we do that, let's have a look at some of the settings on Hyper-V. So if we click Hyper-V settings, I've got live migration in here. So I've got enable incoming and outgoing live migration to this. Now I actually ticked that earlier, shouldn't have done that really. So I ticked that all over, ticked that earlier, and we can see how you're going to authenticate between the nodes. Don't know much about that, apart from, so Kerberos is more secure, so therefore the other one's probably easier. So I've just gone on to that. The simultaneous live migrations, into two, I've got that. And for live migrations, when you're flicking over between your main headquarters and a DR site, it probably isn't on the same VLAN. It might be on the same on a different IP subnet, so you can give it an alternate IP address when it's failed over.
Right.
So I thought of everything. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to leave that as is. Let's just go to replication configuration. So let's enable this computer to add as a replica server. Again, don't really know much about here. Authentication. Yeah, let's use Kerberos.
Well, because HTTP is simpler than HTTPS.
Yeah. and the bottom it says allow replication from any server. So let's allow replication from any server. What server is this I'm on? This is number 3, isn't it? So I actually want to go from 3 to 2. So I don't really care about this one. But what I could do is say we're going to store incoming replicas on... Can I create a folder here? Go for that. So let's just say in VMs. Incoming VMs, let's just call it that. Okay, so it all looks quite straightforward at the moment, doesn't it? Let's pop to number 2 and let's do the same settings on that.
So, do you know what sort of permissions you need before you can connect to...
Oh, lots of them.
Okay.
In terms of what? I'm a local administrator on both nodes.
Okay.
What are you talking about in terms for the replication side of things?
No, well, just the connection side of things first, and then...
I think you can delegate permissions just to Hyper V, but I'm just because it's my first time I looked at it, I'm just a domain admin, everywhere. So this is where it's going to. So let's just pop to live migration, enable live migration on that one. More secure requires control, not doing that. Incoming live migration, use any available network, and let's pop to replication configuration. So we're enabling this one, we're using Kerberos, and we are allowing replication from any authenticated server, and we'll browse and we'll say that's going to I've got a new folder there.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? It's because it's over the network, isn't it? No, I'm a little bit stuck.
Was that a shared drive? Do a local one then. Removable disk.
I want to keep it tidy. I'm going to remote into the other one just to do this. So I've logged on to, I want to go to number 2, don't I? Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So actually, there probably is an easy way of doing it, but I'm just trying to speed things up. And let's call it in VMs, just like the other one. Okay, and then I can log off this. It took me a while to realise how you log off this thing.
How?
Go up to the administrator.
Oh,
Oh, you sign out now, you don't log off. That's not good. That's so 90s. Right, so hopefully if I go to D on here, we should be able to see that.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, it changes everything to lowercase. Interesting.
There's that. So that's okay on that. Traffic to be allowed on the firewall. Now, I've disabled the firewall, so I don't care about that. So I'm going from number 3 to number 2, And let's right click and create my new virtual machine. Now when you choose this virtual machine to replicate across, you don't have to replicate all the VHDs across. So if you've got multiple drives, you wouldn't have to replicate all of them across. You might think, well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'll leave you to think about that.
Because your data's been backed up separately, or?
It could be. Let me just create a new virtual machine. Click on next, and let's call this test VM. Test VM. So I'm going to store it on my local machine. Let's give it 4 gig. Actually, let's give it 2 gig. Let's click on next, and let's say it is connected. Now on here, I'm going to create a virtual hard disk. Now remember we said we can pick and choose what we're replicating in terms of virtual hard disk. Can you think of any data I wouldn't want to replicate across to that other node?
Maybe logs.
Could be. Closer. Getting warmer. What's changing quite a lot? Page file.
Right.
So the page file, there's no reason for me to replicate the page file across to the second node. So what about if we create 2 disks? We put the page file on one of those other disks and we choose not to replicate that. Doesn't seem like a bad idea, does it? Huh?
Yeah.
Well done, Nikki.
I don't know. I don't like it because it's not foolproof. You could get administrators thinking, oh, I'll just replicate C, and there was a data D, and then a page file E, and then they think, oh, I'm covered. Disaster strikes.
What, when you want them to replicate the whole lot?
Yeah, well, in terms of safety, if I owned a company, I would rather them
it's never going to happen.
Replicate the whole thing than replicate not enough.
But you can see the point in page file. If you've got a large server, you're constantly writing to it, that's going to be replicating across there. So I think if you've got any degree of intelligence,
common sense.
It's common sense. That's really what IT is about.
Especially now, you probably need larger and larger page files because of the resource requirements for these newfangled servers.
Right, so I'm going to click on next on that and click on finish. Now, before I fire that up, let's add that second disk. Ready? And if we go down to SCSI controllers, let's just click on add. And we'll create a new disk. Oh, new type of PHD file, PHDX file, which you can now store on a share.
This format is not supported.
Oh, I might have to do that for replication.
This format. I'm trying to read it.
Can't be. So fixed size, dynamic expanding and differencing. We've kind of touched on that before. So next is the one, and we'll call this page file. Click on next. Yeah. Again, because it's dynamically expanding, I don't really care. Finish. So we just build this up. Now hopefully, and I'm really hoping that when I fire this up, it will connect to the Pixie server. And this is my System Center server. And hopefully it will deploy an OS into it. But it ain't looking good at the moment. Oh, there we go. So F12 that.
Oh, here we go.
So guys, the last episode you saw us create a Windows 7 build and capture. So I've done exactly the same with Windows 2008 R2. So if you want to know how to do this, just watch the last episode. And this is just a build and capture. I've done a build and capture, and this is just the deployment of it. So hopefully this will all install, join the domain, and we'll see you back when that happens. That's all complete.
Okay.
Cool, see you in a bit.
The world's greatest music company. The world's greatest music company.
Eat paper, no! Move that melon of yours and get the paper if you can. All in that gargantuan cranium.
cried himself to sleep tonight on a huge pillow.
Okay, so that was quick install. Good lab, eh?
Yes.
Not bad.
Very
Right,
handy.
so let's log on to this thing and, oh look, it's joined a domain. You might say, why am I putting an IHQ lab in there?
And why are you spelling it all wrong?
To give you something to do.
And spell check, is it? Still wrong. Still wrong.
I know, I felt my finger press both keys. Suspense is what this is about. You better not cut this bit out.
I won't.
You could do though.
See, username and password is incorrect.
Right, I'm going to screen zoom. Eat that.
Here we go.
Right, so we're not expecting much on this server, it's just a blank server. Of course, up to date. Wouldn't be deploying anything, out of the box without updates, would we?
Cool.
And let's just put this on full screen for a second. And I want to have a look at the disk config. So we'll just pop down to storage. And remember, because the first thing I want to do is put the page file on a separate disk. So let's just put that online. And again, you could, I'm not going to worry too much about sizing this properly. And I'll just create new simple volume. Happy with all of that, yeah, happy with all of that. And I'll call it page file. And we'll do a quick format. Right, now can you remember how to change the page file on these things?
Isn't it somewhere in the environment?
It's advanced in here, isn't it, I think? God, I have no idea how to do it on server 2012. Yeah.
Just type page file, I reckon.
I suppose it could be. Right, so it's advanced performance, user profile, startup. Where is it?
Performance. Settings. There we go.
Okay, so virtual memory, so let's just click on change that. And it is going to require a reboot. So tell me how to do anything automatic. Let's say automatic on... Oh, can you not set it on one drive? So I'm going to say no paging file on C. And we will have a...
So you're going to give it
system
all...
name size.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, so default is none and that's system managed. All looks good.
Okay.
So let's quickly reboot that. So in theory, really, I don't need to wait for that to start. I could look at the configuration now, couldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Right, so there's my test VM, so it's on number 3. The idea is to try and replicate it to number 2, so I'm going to right click on it, and where do you think we're going to go? Enable replication.
Okay. So you have to do this per VM,
Yeah.
not
Now-
per host.
No, it's per VM. So going back to the solution I talked about, the $1 million one, this is not a solution for that kind of organisation. This is for, smaller, medium size, that kind of thing. And really, you may be selecting the occasional virtual machine that you think, yeah, that's important, but you're not going to be taking it across anything, I wouldn't have thought. Click on next. So the replica server is...
Oh, okay. So
and I'm going from 3 to 2, aren't I? Click on next. And replica server port, we said HTTP, didn't, we said Kerberos, HTTP, compress, yeah, we'll do that. And these are the disk files we're going to go
Okay.
across, and I'm going to say we don't need to take that one across. Just click on next. What you can do is do something, and if you read this, I haven't read this before. It's something to do with volume snapshots. Is this potentially to VSS?
Can
so
I ask?
You can give it a bit more consistency, I think.
Can I ask if there might be any trouble if you don't have any page files set up at all?
I'm thinking that. I am thinking that. As I was configuring it, I think, well, I wonder what happens. And I'm guessing it's just going to come up and put the page file on any disk it's got, isn't it? I'm
I
guessing.
guess so, but or you can rely just on the.
Who knows? Let's find out. So actually, after reading that, this is the number of replica points you've got. So the last 4 recovery points are only the latest one. So
Okay.
it's like you can snapshot back, say only the latest one. How are we going to get the initial copy across? I'm going to say over the network, but of course what you could do is courier it across or get it across some other way. I mean, it might be on the other side of the world, and it might be, you know, more than
Oh, I
11,
see what you
more than
mean.
11 gigabytes. So schedule initial replication. We'll start doing that straight away. Click on finish.
Okay, so you could install and restore all the servers manually.
So replica and virtual machines were successfully created. The network adapters, virtual machines are now connected. You can manually configure the network adapter settings. Replica are not connected. Okay, so it looks like it's another task that we need to do on failover. Is
Okay.
connect that all up.
You click on settings.
Honestly. Right, so this is settings for the test VM on number 2. So this looks like this is the destination, isn't it?
Yep.
It'd be interesting to have a look at the hard disk. I suppose in a way we could add a hard disk to that, couldn't we? Onto there. If I go to network, let's stick that on the network as well. I suppose that will help speed it across.
In theory.
In theory. Okay, so it's running. If I right click, do you think I can see replication status? View replication health.
Normal.
Average size. Last size of data to be replicated. Last synchronization hasn't started yet, has it?
No.
So maybe we ought to leave it there and hope for some kind of to kick it off. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the other tabs we've got underneath here, because it looks like we've got a replication tab here, haven't we?
It says
Ross.
now. Oh, snapshots. Okay.
Is there anything else I could do on this? Replication. Cancel, view replication. It's giving me the option
It's
to
doing
pause
it,
it.
I think. That's why it's.
Okay, let's leave there for that.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like it's going to take a little while to replicate, but we thought what I'd do is connect up to that VM whilst it's replicating. Just give it
You're just
something,
testing it now, aren't you?
give it something to work for, and I suppose we'll be able to configure it or make some kind of change, haven't we?
Well, maybe just a text file.
Yeah,
On the desktop?
that would do, and that would prove. I mean, if the text file's still there, that proves your SQL server's going to fail over no worries, isn't it? Right. So, new text document. Really important. There you go, so if we lose that.
Then we're
That's that.
buggered.
Right, so I won't bother adding roles because I think you guys get the idea. Let's have a look at the replication, how it's doing now. And, oops, don't really want to rename the thing or do anything like that. So let's just go to replication, replication, refresh.
Oh.
Oh, big jump.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe creating text document speeds it up. So you learn something from watching our podcast.
I really don't think so.
The world's greatest music company.
So it's looking like it's done the initial replication anyway. Average latency more than 5 minutes. Maybe that will. Let's refresh. Average size, maximum size. For the past 12 minutes, let's reset statistics. And let's see over the next 5 minutes what that's like, because I think that's the initial replica, so I don't trust.
Well, no, there was 2 out of 2, so it's just done 2 replicas early on before you reset. It says successful replication cycles 2 out of 2.
Oh yeah,
So
last synchronization less than 5 minutes ago.
So if we go and check whether that file.
Well, the thing is, I would have to, well, it's interesting. I don't know. So we're going to 3. That's the source, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at number 2 and let's see if we've got anything on here.
Oh, test VM right on top.
Okay, let's just make this bigger. So there's test VM and the state is off.
Mhm.
Be interesting to have a look at replication, and let's have a look at. Oh, so it knows it's.
Mhm.
Well, we've got a test failover and a failover in there.
A test failover meaning you just take the other one down and bring this one up.
God knows. God knows. So it looks like this.
So yeah, see 2 out of 2 successful replication cycles.
Right. So I think the only thing we can possibly do is right click and do test failover, isn't it? And see what happens, or we could just say we don't need to test it.
Well, we want to see.
Yeah,
whether...
let's see what test failover does. Okay, so test failover. You can create a separate virtual machine to verify the recovery point is able to start successfully, and that the virtual machine uses the recovery point to create the virtual machine. So we said always keep the last recovery point, didn't we? So we've only got the 1, which is at 2022. God, is that late already? And let's do a test failover. Oh, I'm excited. So there's test VM test in there. Let's start this thing up.
So these are the manual steps you mentioned earlier. You actually.
Well, this is a test failover. Now, one thing I'm slightly worried about, but it's good for you guys to see, is this going to be on the network? It's not connected. Because otherwise I thought there'd be a name conflict, wouldn't there?
Because
so,
the other one isn't.
Yeah,
down.
so you can see what it's done. This test failover is quite good. You've got that one still going, and I imagine if we look at the replication health on this is still replicating. So we can. That test is independent.
Oh, okay. So maybe we should have just done a failover.
Could have done, but let's have a look at this now.
Well, you're going to get the conflict now.
No, because it's not going to be connected to the network, is it?
Oh, that's right.
Oh. And we also can find out what happened about the whole paging file thing. So it might just come up and say, oh, what's going on with the paging file, sort itself out and reboot.
Yeah.
So I might see a couple of reboots in this. Oh, the other thing, number 3 and number 2 are actually different processor platforms. One's AMD, one's Intel. So maybe when I created the VM, I could have said, this is portable.
Oh.
So back screens.
But surely it should have warned you when you.
Well, I would have thought so. So if it goes wrong, it's got to be a Microsoft problem.
Right. It doesn't seem to be.
It doesn't
coming
seem
out.
to be doing much at all, does it? So this one is on a. Oh, there you
oh,
go.
oh.
Look. Honestly,
Oh,
this node is slightly slower than the source one.
Slightly.
Yeah, well, this one's running on traditional mechanical hard disk. This one.
Ah, okay. Something's happening.
That test photo was quite good, though, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because it's left the whole replication thing. I'm kind of glad we did that. We could deem this test to be a success and just start the failover. It's just. I'm almost thinking that's got to be the right thing to do.
Well, let's just see what the desktop shows on this one.
All right, how am I going to control what to do? Let's just do this. Now, I don't know if it's going to remember my cache credentials, because obviously it's not on the network.
It should do.
For you. So, this is either going to be a day wasted or a remarkable success.
Moment of truth.
Oh my word.
Awesome.
So you must restart before restarting. Could be to do with the paging file. I'm going to say restart later.
Oh yeah,
Windows
here we go.
Create a temporary paging file for your computer. I'm happy with that. Because
Yeah.
it saves a lot of replication, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not too bad. So it looks like it might need a little config in there. But I'm going to click on OK. And we can declare that a remarkable success, can't we?
Remarkable.
Remarkable. So let's just switch that one off.
So in theory, after the
I can
test,
just
you would
delete
delete
that one,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's right click on this and let's go to replication. Let's view replication health.
Oh, there was a test failover, so I think it might actually delete it for
okay.
you.
So that'd be interesting. So you can see this is definitely nice and healthy now, isn't it?
Well, I guess
The
there's a green
replication
tick mark there.
So let's right click replication and say stop test failover. Do you want to stop test failover? The virtual machine will be deleted.
I'm liking this.
It's pretty
I
good.
really
isn't it?
am. They've thought of it properly, I feel, and yep.
So let's do the final one. Start, right click and failover. Yeah, happy with that.
Let's just do that. Oh.
Cannot failover. Cannot failover virtual
Oh,
machine.
because it's not turned off. So, in the event of a disaster,
I suppose you wouldn't have access to the other one, would you?
because it would be off.
Well, I'll tell you what, should we switch that node off?
Yeah.
Yeah?
So, building flattened.
Yeah, okay, so what machine am I on? I'm on node 2 now, aren't I?
Yes, so you want to switch node 3 off.
That's correct.
Interesting.
HQ B03. What do you mean access denied? What?
Oh, the security, I tell you.
Oh man. I'll tell you what I do. I got in by Windows, didn't I? From the Mac. I'm going to 3, am I?
Yes, you're going 3 to turn that off.
This is 3 I'm on now. Oh, it's so confusing, this is.
Yep,
So this is on
3.
3, so I can do that.
How do you turn it off?
It's bottom right, don't you know? It's the bottom right corner of the
Oh.
settings. Power. Shut down.
Jeez. It's gonna take a little getting used to.
It will, yeah. So
Okay.
that's all down now. So
Right.
let's go to number 2, which is the destination, isn't it? IHQ. It's another nice background, isn't it? Mountain line. So, how do we get to Hyper-V Manager?
Jeez.
Yeah?
There, at the bottom.
Yeah, I'd go where I told this way.
Okay, do it the hard way.
Right, so number 2, let's have a look at my test VM. And let's have a look at replication.
Fell over. Oh,
Interview that. So it says it's okay.
okay.
Clearly
So
that.
it was carrying on the synchronization because the last one's now.
Yeah, it looks like
Less than
that.
5
That
minutes
test
ago.
failure didn't affect anything, did it at all?
So it's done 3 now. Oh, 3.
So I suppose we would need to wait 5 minutes for it to work. But yeah, interesting. I suppose the way this actually works is on the source machine, it creates a log file and
Mhm.
all the writes. So when it updates the page, it updates that log file, the page in that log file now. So if a page gets updated multiple times, the same page in that log file gets updated multiple times. Basically, the end result, and I haven't explained this at all well, is at the end of 5 minutes, we only care about the end result on that page. I don't care if it's gone through 5, 6, 7 iterations. It's the end result. So it's all kind of clever.
But you can't specify the frequency and the timing. Doesn't seem like it anyway.
I read through TechNet. It doesn't seem like you can at the moment. I might be wrong on this. There might be some group policy settings on that, but right, we'll take it as read that in 5 minutes this will go for a failure, shall we? Or do you want to wait 5 minutes?
No, let's just try and replicate now. Not replicate.
Yeah, I
Fell
was
over.
kind of hoping that the replication health would go to not normal because it's not normal, is it?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Okay, so it looks like we've got a problem. I wonder what that problem is.
So we've waited actually several minutes for this to happen.
Yeah, it was an instant. So yeah, you can see the clock there. So just have a look at when the clock jumped, and that's how long it took. So that's your text message. It's looking good. Errors encountered not. Successful replication cycles 3 out of 4. So it missed a replication cycle, and we're now in a warning state. So that was our 5 minutes we warned. Now apparently it can go up to. I think
25.
yeah, so it'd be up to half an hour, so another 25 minutes, and that would be in a failed state. But again, at no time would it instigate failover itself. That's not what DL's about. It'd be very easy for you to write a script to do this. You know, PowerShell script. You could use Orchestrator. But again, you need to think about what you're trying to do. Is it DR?
Okay, don't start it.
Oh yeah, replication. So we better fade over, haven't we?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Hmm.
So I suppose what we could do next is use Virtual Machine Manager to replicate one of my real VMs, because I've got all my important VMs on the 2008 box, because just in case this all fails. And you can see all the clients are on here as well. So it's fading over, and it's starting.
Ooh.
And we kind of know what the end result of this really is, don't we? Because we did a test failover.
Theoretically, yes. Network group.
I'm just pressing escape just to bypass that.
Okay.
So you can expect, you know what this happens, it replicates
Because
across
we
when the machine was
turned
on.
off. Yeah.
And of course it wouldn't be able to replicate the memory. If you want to do that, you would have to live migrate in a cluster.
Okay.
But that's high availability, this is all DR.
So what about the network for this? It would have.
It asked me for the network, didn't it?
Did it?
Yeah, it asked me what I want the network to be on, and I think I set that up.
What earlier? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
all
it's
connected.
still there. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see how people use this, and how it will cope with things like SQL Server and what Microsoft support stance is.
Right.
It'd be really interesting to see.
Maybe it'd be replicated separately.
Could be. I suppose if it's that important, you wouldn't use this kind of toy system. I don't know. But the thing I'm liking about this, if you look at certain systems, config manager, for example, it's a nightmare to do DR for. But now, on one site, if I put the site server on a single VM, I can just get it replicated to the other side. Jobs are good.
Oh, can we just check the drives to see that there was only one drive? I know.
You can indeed. Let me just
for fun.
But remember, what I could have done here is I could have added. Do you remember? I could have gone to the destination and added another disk for it locally. But I suppose still, again, it would have had a problem with it. Or would it have done?
Don't know if it not
It wouldn't have formatted it, would it? I would have had to
set it all
I
up.
imagine. I reckon I could automate that. You could automate that, couldn't you? That paging file thing. It might be a read, but you could automate it.
Maybe
perhaps.
it's a set up once type thing, and then. So okay, so see.
So where am I going on this?
Well, that's it.
That's
The fact that E wasn't there.
Yeah, I've only got my C drive, and I've got that's just
Yeah.
a map drive from before. So
Was the important file there on the desktop?
I don't know.
Yeah,
It was
the
indeed.
really important file.
Right, pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
Hyper-V.
I love
So
it.
some of the other things I want to do next is the VHD files can be stored in a file share. I can't think of good reasons for that at the moment, but it's something else we want to try. If you've got a decent file, it's almost like shared storage, maybe potentially. Can't see how that's going to pan out. Maybe good for testing, perhaps.
So, but then maybe if you do that, then maybe replication can be at the storage layer.
It could be at that point, but then if you've got replication at the storage layer, you've got loads of money, and this isn't for you. But the other thing you can do in this, if you've got a cluster itself, you've got high availability in that. It is supported to replicate, from a VM from that cluster to a DR site, so you can do lots of cool things like that. You can do cluster to cluster, cluster to single node to cluster, etc. So yeah, it's all looking pretty good.
And did
I'm
you
happy.
say you thought this was going to be a VMware killer?
Well, I don't know, because the honest truth is I don't deal a lot with VMware, and I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend I'm an expert at VMware, but what I do know is feature by feature they are sort of marrying up quite a lot. And certainly from a customer requirements point of view, I've talked to lots of VMware customers and talk about Hyper-V and their requirements, and they're quite happy to move to Hyper-V now. I'm finding lots
Yes,
and lots
because
of
in the
people really
beginning
happy, yeah.
it was really lacking, but now you struggle to find a reason how Hyper-V is not,
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what we just did in the last hour. Well, if you take the status bars out, we've done maybe 40 minutes worth of work, haven't we? To get this full DR thing working. It's pretty cool. Right, shall we have a Saturday night now? Right, till next time. See ya.
Bye!